Our class, today we're talking about quadratic functions. And so if 4 times 0 is equal to 0, we all know that. And 0 times 4 equals 0. Therefore, if 4 times a equals 0, then a must be 0, right? So if two numbers multiply together equals 0, then we know that at least one of the two numbers must be 0. Okay? And this is called a zero product property. It states that let A and B be real numbers. If A times B equals 0, then at least A equals 0 or B equals 0. Okay? And we use the zero product property to solve quadratic equations. And so this is where we have one side of the equation equals 0, and the other side is a product of polynomial factors. And the solution of such an equation they're also called zeros. All right, zeros. And so how do we solve these equations? Well, we write the equation so that it is equal to 0, factor the equation completely, and then set each factor to equal 0 and solve for the variable. So let's see, let's look at an example. Now let's look at number 5. I'm sorry, this is out of order. Let's slide this up there, okay? Let's look at number 1. So here we have two factors, right? Multiply together equals 0. So this is just like, this is my A and this is my B equals 0. And so we're gonna set each factor to 0 and solve for x. So in this case, I'm gonna have x plus 3 is equal to 0, and the other one is going to be x plus 4 is equal to 0. All right, and I'm sure y'all know to solve this, right? I want to get x by itself, and so what do? I just add -3 on both sides, and that's going to give me x is equal to -3. And similarly, I'm just going to add -4 on both sides, draw my line, and x is equal to -4. Okay. And by now, what I want you guys to be doing this now is this. If you look at it, if I just move the 3 over to the other side, right, it becomes a -3. That's something I need you guys to start getting more familiar with. All right, so let's look at number 2. Okay, number 2, we need to set the equation equal to 0. So you know here it is equal to -25. So I need to rearrange the equation so that it is equal to 0. And how do I do that? Well, I'm going to plus 25 here. And if I plus 25 on one side, I also have to add 25 to the other side. So I'm plus that 25 on the left side. And if I draw my line, okay, I'm going to have x squared plus 10x plus 25, and that's going to equal to plus 25 on -25, that's going to equal to 0 right there. So now I can go ahead and factor my polynomial or my quadratic equation. And this you guys have been doing for a while. So if I use my X-box method, let's use my X-box method to find the factors, okay? So you know that the first box is going to have x squared, the last box is going to be 25, and so when you find what goes in these 2 corner boxes. So I'm going to multiply the constant by the coefficient of x squared. So 1 times 25 is 25, and then the bottom is going to be the middle term, which is 10. And so I need 2 numbers. When I add it, it gives me 10, but when I multiply it, it gives me 25, and that is just 5 and 5. So this is 5x, 5x. Okay. And so by now, you know this side is going to be x, that's going to be x. What times x gives me 5x? That is 5. And what times x gives me 5x? This is 5. Okay. And so my 2 factors are x plus 5 and x plus 5. And that is equal to 0. So let's go ahead and solve for the variable. So I'm going to have, let me extend, in fact, let me slide over here. So I'm going to have x plus 5 is equal to 0, and x plus 5 is equal to 0. And so if I had negative 5 on both sides, negative 5 on both sides, also on this side, draw my line, I'm going to get x is equal to negative 5, and also on over here, if I draw my line, I'm going to get x is equal to negative 5. Okay? So the solution is x equals negative 5. All right. Okay, let's look at number 5. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and have you attempt number 5. I'm going to have you pause the video and attempt number 5. And if you get stuck, you can come back and look at it. All right, so go ahead and try that. So again, I'm going to find the factors of x squared minus 6x plus 8. So let's do our x box. Okay. And so we know that in the first box, I'm going to have x squared. In the last box, I'm going to have 8. And so I need to find these two corner boxes. So I'm going to go over to my x on my diamond. Okay. Now the top box is going to be 8. Remember, it's going to be 1 times 8, which is 8. And the bottom is going to be the coefficient of x, which is negative 6. So I need two numbers. So when I add them, it gives me negative 6. And when I multiply them, it gives me 8. And those two numbers are negative 2 and negative 4. Therefore, these two corner boxes are going to be negative 2x and negative 4x. Okay. And so by now, I need to make this right. Sorry, guys. So by now, you know my corner boxes here are going to have the factors of x and x. And x, what times x gives me negative 4x? That is negative 4. And what times this x gives me negative 2x? That's negative 2. Okay, so my factors now are x minus 4 and x minus 2, and that is equal to 0. So these two factors, right, are the factors of this polynomial. And now we want to solve for the variable. So all we're going to do is set each factor to 0. All right. So I'm going to have x minus 4 equal to 0, and x minus 2 equal to 0. And by now, you should know that if I want to get the x by itself, all I'm going to do is add 4 to both sides, okay? Add 4 to both sides. Okay. And that's going to give me x is equal to 4. On this side, if I add 2 to both sides of the equation, right, all I'm going to get is just x is equal to 2. All right. So those are my solutions to the quadratic equation. X equals 4 and x equals 2. All right. Let's go ahead and look at 6 now. Now, if you notice, 6 is not in the format that we want it to be. It is not set equal to 0. So I need to rearrange the equation where it is equal to 0. So all I'm going to do is just add 12 to both sides of the equation. Okay? And therefore, that's going to give me b squared minus 7b plus 12b, and then that's going to equal to 0 because this becomes 0. The plus 12 to the equal sign. The plus 12 and 12 cancel out and gives me 0. So now I can factor my equation. All right. And so here, if I use the x box method, x, and I got a little bit more smaller on this side, so I don't have no space. All right. And so again, my first box is going to be b squared. My last box is going to be, this is 12. They should be 12, not 12b. All right. And so my last box is going to be 12. And so I need to find what goes in these two corner boxes. Therefore, I can go over to my x. So the top part of my x is going to be 12. because it's 1 times 12, and the bottom is going to be -7. So two factors of that two numbers when I add them gives me 7, and when I multiply them gives me 12, and that is -3 and -4. Therefore, these two boxes are going to be -3b and -4b. Okay? Um, and so let's find the factors on the outside. So you know I'm going to have a b here. Okay, you know this is going to be a b. And what times b gives me -4b? That is -4. And what times b gives me -3? That is negative. What times b gives me -3b? And that is 3. All right. So my factors now are b minus 4 and b minus 3, and that is equal to 0. Okay. And so to find the variables now, I'm going to set each factor 0. Therefore, I'm going to have b minus 4 equals 0, and b minus 3 equals 0. And I'm going to add a plus 4 to both sides of the equation, okay? And when I do that, that gives me b is equal to 4. Similarly, on the other side, I'm going to add 3 to both sides of the equation, and then that would give me b is equal to 3, okay? So those are my solutions to the equation. Okay, let's look at this one. All right. And number 3, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this and say, what is the common factor between 9x squared and x? What is highest common factor? Well, we know that there's an x squared here and an x. So the highest common factor is going to be x. All right. So that's my GCF right there. And therefore, if I divide, my GCF is going to be 9. My GCF is 9. And to find the factor, I'm just going to divide each term by 9. So that's going to be 9x squared divided by x plus x divided by x. Okay? So my factor is going to be 9x, okay, plus 1. X divided by x is 1. And x squared divided by x squared is just x. And so I write this now as x times 9x plus 1. And this is equal to 0. And so I'm going to set both factors to 0. So I'm going to have x equals 0. And the other one is going to be 9x plus 1 equals 0. All right. Well, this is already solved. X equals 0. Let's see what the other one is. Well, I want to move the plus 1 to the other side. So therefore, I'm going to add a -1 here, a -1 there. So that's going to give me 9x is equal to -1. Okay. But I want to get x. All right. I want x by itself. And how do I do that? Well, I'm going to divide this side by 9 and this side by 9. The 9 cancels out, so I'm left with x is equal to -1/9. So my solutions are x equals 0 and x equals -1/9. Okay. And okay, go ahead and pause the video and try that on your own and see what solution you get. And if you're stuck, you can pause the video and watch. Okay, so I can find my factors. So I'm going to use the X box method. Again, the first box gets 6x squared. The last box gets -4. And so what are these two factors? Well, let's go over to the X and C. But we know the top part, right, is going to be the product of 6 and -4. And that's going to be -24. The bottom is going to be the coefficient of x, which is -5, middle term. And then I need to find two numbers, so when I add them, it gives me -5, or when I multiply them, it gives me, when I add them, it gives me -5, when I multiply them, it gives me -24, right? And you think about it, that those two numbers are -8 and 3. Yes. And so, therefore, this box is going to be -8x, and this one is going to be 3x. Okay? And so, for the first row, right, my GCF is going to be, well, let's look at it. By now, that's pretty good at this. The highest common factor between 6 and 3 is 3. And the highest common factor between x squared and x is x. And if this is 3x, then you know this has to be 2x. And what times 3x gives me 3x? That's just 1. What times 2x gives me -4x? That's just -4. So my factors are 2x plus 1 and 3x minus 4. Okay? And that is set to 0. Now to find the variable now, we just have to set each factor to 0. And that's going to be 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. And the other one is 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. Okay? And therefore, I want to solve for x. I want x by itself. I'm going to add a -1 to both sides. Okay? That gives me 2x is equal to -1. And then to get x by itself, all I'm going to do is divide both sides by 2. And that will give me 2 cancels out, and that gives me x is equal to, let me keep the red. That's going to give me x is equal to -1/2. All right. And then the other one, I'm going to plus 4 on both sides. I'm going to space here. Plus 4 on both sides. Plus 4 on both sides. That was close. Plus 4 on both sides. And therefore, that's going to get me now 3x. Right? These two cancel out. I'm left with 3x equal to 4. And then divide both sides by 3. Divide both sides by 3. Okay? And therefore, I'm left with x is equal to 4/3. All right, so those are my solutions to the equation. All right? Okay, let's see what we have next. Let's look at 6. Okay, I'm sorry, that was number 6, number 7. Okay, here your equation is already factored for use. All you gotta do now is set each factor to 0. Okay, and go ahead and pause it and solve and come back and check the answer. Right? And so here, if I set x equal to 0 and x minus 8 equal to 0, right? The left side is already solved. One solution is 0, or one of the zeros is 0. The other one, if I just add plus 8 to both sides of the equation, right, that's going to give me x is equal to 8. So both my solutions are x equals 0 and x equals 8. And number 8, let's factor this. Let's see if I use my x box method. Again, the first box gets x squared. The last box gets 10. And I need to find these 2 corner boxes, right? So the top of the x is going to be 10. By now, you guys should know this. The bottom is going to be 11. So what two numbers, when I add them, gives me 11, but when I multiply them, gives me 10, and that is 1 and 10. And therefore, this box is going to be x, and this one is going to be 10x. And so, you know, this is going to be x, this is going to be x. What times x gives me 10x? That's just 10. What times x gives me x? That's just 1. So my factors are x plus 10. Okay, so my factors are x plus 10 and x plus 1, and those are equal to 0. And so if I set x plus 10 equal to 0 and the other factor x plus 1 equal to 0, if I add a negative 10 to both sides, negative 10 here and there, I draw my line, right? That just gives me x is equal to negative 10. And the other one, if I add a negative 1 to both sides, draw my line, that gives me, that gives me x is equal to negative 1. So both negative 10 and negative 1 are my solution, are my zeros to the quadratic functions. All right? And okay, let's look at number 9. Number 9, again, I want to factor here there has to be a factor between x squared and 5x is x. So my GCF, all right, is x. And so if I factor x out, I'm going to divide each term by x, negative 5x by x. All right. X squared divided by x is just x, and 5x divided by x, right, is just 5. So my factors are x and x minus 5, and that is set to equal to 0. I set both factors to 0, x equals 0. That's one solution, or 1, 0. And the other one is x minus 5 is equal to 0. And if I add plus 5 to both sides, that will give me x is equal to 5. So those are my solutions, are the zeros. All right. Now let's look at number 10. If you notice now, number 10 has two terms on the right side. So we get everything on the left side. And so we use the same principle where I'm going to add a plus 9x here, but also a plus 9x on this side. And I'm going to add a plus 20 again to cancel all the 20. And if I do that, in fact, let me get some more space. A plus 9x here and a plus 20. See that? Okay, and I know I'm going to use my ruler try, all right? And so this becomes 0, this becomes 0. So on the right side, all I'm left with is 0. On the left side now, we'll have x squared plus 9x plus 20, and that is equal to 0. All right? And so if I factor, using my x box now, using my x box, all right? First box is going to be x squared. Last box is going to get 20. And you find these two. Let's go with the x. Well, we know the top is going to be 20, right? And the bottom is going to be 9. And what two numbers? When I add them, it gives me 9. I want to multiply them, it gives me 20. That's 4 and 5. So you know this is going to be 4x, and this is going to be 5x. And therefore, by now you should know this. This is going to be x. That's going to be x. What times x gives me 5x? That is 5. What times x gives me 4x? That is 4. And so my factors are x plus 5 and x plus 4, and that is set to 0. Okay? Therefore, I'm going to set each factor to 0. So I'm going to x plus 5 is equal to 0. And the other one is going to be x plus 4 is equal to 0. And let me extend my equation a bit. I'm going to add a negative 5 here and a negative 5 there. Draw my line so that gives me x is equal to negative 5. That is one solution, or 1, 0. On the other side, if I had a negative 4 here and a negative 4 there, I draw my line. That gives me x is equal to negative 4. And that's my other solution, okay? And the last one is very similar to, well, number 11. This is a difference of perfect square, right? And so if I take the square root of 16, but the square root of 16, and I'll get 4, and the square root of 4 is 2, the square of x squared is x. All right, and so my solutions are going to be 2x minus 4 and 2x plus 4. Okay. Again, this is the difference of perfect square, and that is equal to 0. And if I set each term to 0, I'm going to get 2x minus 4 is equal to 0. The other class is going to start now. 2x plus 4 is equal to 0. All right. And I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And that gives me, if I draw my line now, that's going to give me 2x is equal to 4. And then I want x by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2, this by 2, and so that gives me x is equal to 2. So that's one solution of 1, 0. And the other one is I'm going to add a negative 4 to both sides, negative 4 here, and I draw my line that gives me 2x is equal to negative 4. All right? And if I divide both sides by 2, that gives me x. X is equal to negative 2. All right, so those are my solutions of zeros to the equation. And number 12, I'm not going to talk number 12, I'm going to let you do that. But one thing you can do is, if you notice, 3 is a common factor between 3, 6, and negative 24. So if I divide each term by 3, all right, I'll get x squared plus 6x minus 8. This is a lot easier to solve than 3x squared plus 6x minus 24. All right? I'm sorry, this is a 2x right here. All right? So this is a lot easier to solve now than this. And just use your X box dominant to finish this one. All right? All right, guys. Good job.